Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm feeling good this evening. It's a nice mild evening where I am, about 18, 19 degrees. I'm heading back to the UK on Wednesday, where I believe it will be 31 and sweltering.
I'd be amazed if it wasn't still in the sort of low 20s here.
Oh, it's too much.
And very muggy. And it's what, 8:30.
There's our weekly weather update.
Well, it will be a factor. It will be a factor this week because the heat wave. I saw the news earlier. There's a warning in place until Saturday, and obviously there's some football matches to play.
Yeah, so it might. Yeah, it might impact a certain style of play. I don't know. These guys are supreme athletes, aren't they?
They are supreme athletes, yet, although it's a completely different context, they've literally moved the World Cup because under certain conditions, they would essentially cook to death.
And we have a Brazilian flavoured pressing attack that might be more accustomed to.
That's true.
Possibly. I don't know. Do you know what? We'll find out on Saturday. Let's chat about last Friday. We kicked off the new season once again. Sky Cameras obviously wanted us to come a cropper. And this year, we didn't oblige, which was nice. No. A worrying statistic going into the game was that we'd only beaten Palace once in our previous 7 meetings. I hadn't realised that necessarily.
There was a good long conversation as we were walking up. I think it was Penge Road or something like that towards the ground, trying to remember when we last won there, which was a really depressing conversation to have, despite all feeling fairly buoyant. No one was overconfident, but at the same time, we're all a bit optimistic at the minute and happy with the way things are. But yeah, Palace is not an easy place to go.
So walking to the ground, because it's quite interesting. We've got two different perspectives here. I watched it on the TV. You were actually at the game. I had your words in my head before the game started, which were, "What it's going to be 1-1."
Yeah.
How are you feeling walking to the ground?
I was still the same, but I'm just so glad to be back. I think I was even more happy to be back than post-lockdown, because post-lockdown was still a bit trepidatious and the team were in an iffy place still and all those sorts of things. Whereas now we've had that break. Last season, I don't know. Yes, it was disappointing to miss out on top 4, but I don't think I've ever had such a disappointment, but felt like above it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you can see the bigger picture.
Exactly that. The bigger picture is it's progress, or at least we're making the right noises. There's very little to be that upset about.
And you say that, but my esteemed friend who sent me the text we talked about last week.
Oh, is this the Arteta out if we don't have?
If we don't get 15 points after the game? I messaged him a statistic that was new to me, that Arteta has actually got to 50 wins in the second quickest time as an Arsenal manager. Only Wenger has achieved it in fewer games, and it's only 4 fewer games, 98 versus 94, which I think is a brilliant statistic.
I think given the competitiveness of the leagues at the time.
Yeah, and the team he took over as well.
Yeah.
It's so, and what was going on in the backgrounds, like dodgy purchases and so on with Arteta. So I sent him, his friend, this statistic, and he replied with a Emery statistic about how Emery's last 50 games for Arsenal were better than Arteta's and I said, but that's historical now. But he changed it. Then he changed it. He said if we don't go to Old Trafford and win, we are bottlers. And I'm like, You keep changing. Now because we beat Palace away, you're thinking, yeah, hang on a minute, we might get those 15 points after all. So I need to change my expectations accordingly, so I can still say Arteta out again. So and it's just reminded me of it now. That talking about the bigger picture, I'm on the same page as you. Like I was disappointed we lost out on fourth place. I was annoyed. I was angry at how we performed against Spurs and kind of crushingly, but it felt so familiar. Being turned over by Newcastle in the next game. But actually, I could compartmentalise that and step back and have a look and see, well, do you know what? Yeah. Nobody was talking about us for top 6 at the start of the season, let alone after the first 3 games. And yet, here we are. And I can see rationale behind every single thing that we're doing at the moment. Have you watched any more of the documentary?
I've seen all 3 that have been released so far, yeah.
Okay, so I'll answer this. I have not seen any of it yet. I won't see it till I get back on Wednesday. Okay. Or it'll be Thursday by the time I get around to it. I've heard quite a few people say that Arteta comes out really well in terms of his passion and commitment to the club. And also, we wondered whether Arsenal take a 1-goal lead and the instruction is to sit back and hold it because we kept doing it. But apparently that comes across like that is never the strategy. I mean, it happened again against Palace. And I must admit, I looked at the bench and I thought, I don't know who to bring on. Smith Rowe wasn't there. Vieira wasn't there. So anyway, is that true that Arteta, yeah.
Massively.
Right,
massively. So it's all about Arteta. Yes, there's a lot of tactical stuff going on, of course, but I'm always surprised at how almost psychological modern management is. That it's about creating the right environment and it's about looking after the individual to the benefit of the team. And it's all about positivity and confidence and almost, mindfulness, to parlance a modern phrase, and well-being and all those sorts of things that are really important. Because let's face it, but if players are playing in the Premier League, they're the best 1 or 2% footballers probably in the world. You take all those big leagues and the population, they're the best footballers in the world. They can play football. They're really good at football.
Yes.
No matter what, we all moan and this, that, and the other, but it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
So really, what's stopping them from performing the best? Well, it's all the other factors around it. It's the noise on social media. It's what's going on in their personal lives. It's the fact that they're a teenager and they've moved cultures and countries, and therefore it's about how you help them adapt to what's going on. And Arteta knows that for the players that we have, being on the front foot, having the confidence, doing things as far away from our goal as possible is what's going to help create a more successful environment. So it's so stark, yeah.
But he hasn't achieved it yet because after 30 minutes in the Palace game, this is on the telly. Now you can tell me if it's different from actually being at the game. First 20 minutes we were electric. Then there was about a 10-minute spell, and you're thinking, well, we should have scored. What minute was the goal? The first goal?
I can't remember off the top of my head now, but it's about that. It's about 30 minutes.
Yeah, right. So, and then then in the run up to half time, I was thinking, ooh, we're ceding possession a little bit. We're ceding authority of the ball, and go on.
That's the key. It's authority on the ball. Arteta said afterwards that he was pleased with the way the team dug in. Yeah. Well, one of the traits or attributes of digging in is that you stand firm, you block, you clear. What we didn't do was get our foot on the ball.
Yeah.
Or we didn't muscle our way into a position where we could shield the ball and look after the ball and then try and move territory forward. What was really telling was those 2 substitutions, because everyone around us, we're all going, come on, make a change, do something. And then
Yeah.
he did. And those two players were absolutely key in us creating the situation where Saka can put in that cross, because Nketiah comes on and he is one touch, two touch, pass and move. Tierney comes on and just gives that little bit of steel. He positions himself in such a way that a ball goes up and he can win the header against a guy who's much taller and stronger than him.
They had no more joy down their right once Tierney came on.
No,
which
so
was interesting. But what was interesting about the two substitutions is they were like for like in position, so the formation didn't change.
No,
the setup didn't change. Like Tierney,
it was just the impetus. It was energy. You know, Jesus and Zinchenko did fade a little bit. Yes. And Zinchenko, it made me realise that actually, in my head, I see him as a fullback just because he's slotted in there so much at City. But I think you're right from what you said previously, that he is probably more of a midfielder, and that Tierney, it's that nous, isn't it? It's just that positional intelligence to know when to hold, when to run. And what was interesting was how high Tierney found himself, because he knew that if he's there,
he was way up. I was like,
exactly. But if he's there, then Palace have to react to that.
Yeah,
and that pulls us forward. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I know Arteta did get kudos for his substitutions.
I don't believe it. I don't remember him having that effective.
Well, there you go. That's it, though, isn't it? That's a novice manager learning, and kind of showing or illustrating how he's learned and how he's developing and evolving his decision making in match decision making. Because the reason that I think he left it so late to make the changes, because I was like, he's got to do something. Come on. Palace didn't actually create a huge amount. They had those two gilt-edged chances where in the first half, before half-time, the header, which I think was a fantastic save from Ramsdale. The other one from Eze, look, the keeper's done well. He's made himself big. The ball hasn't gone in the back of the net, so the keeper's done well. But Eze should have buried it.
And just to mention, Zaha's pass to Eze.
Yes.
I mean, that was unreal.
Yeah,
to have the vision. I didn't really appreciate it. You know, as an away fan, you're just kind of on edge, hoping the ball doesn't go in the net. But watching the highlights back, that pass is.
Yeah, it did split two Arsenal players like eye of the needle stuff.
Zaha's such an enigma, isn't he? You know, it didn't work out at United. We had those rumours that he was going to come to us, and it all surfaced that he was an Arsenal fan growing up, and this, that, and the other. I mean, he's a Palace legend, and he's such a quality player. But you just wonder what his ceiling could have been. You know, how could he have performed in European competition?
What was your take on his battle against Ben White?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, the fact that Ben White made so many tackles and, you know, got one yellow card for a fairly petty offence, to be honest.
Back, didn't he?
White did fine. White did okay.
Because the in-game commentary and the kind of implied that White was being given a bit of a runaround, but that's not how I saw it. And the statistics kind of supported. Actually, White had a really good game. Zaha lost the ball a lot, didn't create much. He had that one chance. He didn't have any opportunity himself to do anything. Because he is such a dynamite, explosive, dangerous player, that it always tends to look a certain way, or you feel like, okay, you know, you feel you're kind of a little bit nervous when he gets the ball, and so you're a little bit more heightened in that sense. But actually,
it didn't feel like one player in particular, whether it was Zaha or whoever, was causing us problems. It felt like a collective thing. It felt like they imposed themselves a little bit more on us, and we withdrew ourselves a little bit more, and it just made for this kind of dynamic where we seemed.
How do we stop that?
I don't know. I mean, to me, it still smacks of a lightweightness, perhaps in either the midfield or the front line. You know, we've got brilliantly dynamic, exciting, attacking footballers up front, but what we don't have is that stickability that means when we need to get out, we can. And I
No.
watched Man City versus West Ham under the prism of how our game had gone. And there's just this relentlessness that to Man City, and with all the best teams, whether it's Liverpool as well. Worryingly, Spurs have got a little bit of this going on now with a couple of players they've added, where they lose the ball, but they're just relentless in trying to hunt it back. There's no sense of them, being put under the cosh, particularly because they can control the game by making sure that they are constantly badgering the opposition. And we can do that. We did that intensely for 20 minutes in the first half. But once that intensity drops, we do sit off a little bit, and that lets the other team up in. So I don't know whether we add more energy to the midfield, because Xhaka and Partey both had good games, but Partey's sitting as the pivot, and Xhaka tries to put pressure on, but he just doesn't have that top speed acceleration like Jesus has, and Jesus did brilliantly in the first half, intercepting things.
I thought we had our three poorest performers on the night were Xhaka, Partey, and Ødegaard, and that's where you've got your control. Partey was and Xhaka, I thought they were more subdued, but I don't know whether that's down to Palace.
Again, I don't think it's that they had bad games, but maybe slightly anonymous games.
Yeah, it's more subdued than you would. And if you're looking for players to control midfield and put the foot on the ball and control the ball, then Partey and Xhaka are the first two you're going to need to be able to do that. Ødegaard as well. You talked about stickability, and it didn't stick with him enough.
No.
And Saka didn't have his best game, although he got his assist in the end. And he always causes trouble. He always demands like 2 or 3 opposition players when he gets the ball. So just his presence on the pitch causes problems. Jesus was just electric for 30 minutes. I mean, if we can see more of that. I mean, Martinelli should have buried the chance he had from Jesus. Would have been the assist of the decade that had Martinelli scored. So I was cursing Martinelli, his lack of end product, right up until the moment he headed the ball into the back of the net, and then I shut up.
Here's the thing: did he hit the ball, or did the ball hit him?
Well, he was the keeper. For me, the keeper was poor on the goal. I thought he got his hand to it, and it wasn't a powerful header, as you've just alluded to. The direction changed. That was what kind of beat the keeper. But that was Ramsdale. I'd be thinking you should have done better than that. A stronger arm on that. Not that I was complaining, but Martinelli he just creates chaos. He's brilliant. He's electric. However, if he can just find that end product, that goal would have been, we should have been the game should have been over after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
You always felt that being there, that a 2-goal gap would be too much for Palace. Whereas, with one, there's always that chance. I mean, it seems like a very obvious thing to say, but there are some teams you play against where even a 2-goal gap doesn't seem.
Having said that, I must be honest here. I was just nodding my head sagely in agreement with what you were saying about it felt like a 2-0 gap at any point would have been comfortable. When we did go 2-0 up, I was thinking then at that point was, well, I don't think we'll lose. So I was prepared to concede that we might give away 2 goals, but I was confident we wouldn't give away 3 goals. So I have to be honest about that. I'm not as I can be blasé after the facts, but in the moment I was all over the place.
Just going back to some of the analysis, I think there's a couple of things in terms of presence. I can't remember his name. I'm sure you'll know better. The new central midfielder that Palace had. Right,
is it Anderson?
No, he's centre back.
Yeah, and he caused us no end of problem.
He was great, and I liked him even when he was. Was he? I think he was on loan at Fulham from somewhere. No, their central midfielder as well. Just kept breaking the play up and doing. I think doing the simple things really well that again we couldn't necessarily bypass. However, we did late on, because when Nketiah and Tierney came on, just the passing, the range got shorter and therefore got more accurate and allowed us just to step up. You know, it's all well and good clearing your lines, and there's absolutely a time and a place for it. But once those passes started clicking again from two players fresh off the bench, we found our way forward. So whether we make those changes earlier or just encourage the players that are on the pitch to do that.
Well, I think if Arteta's learned one thing from that, it is to he would have made that change 10 minutes earlier, because the change was quite immediate and obvious, and the pattern had been set.
Yeah.
You know, we did at no point. I was thinking at half time, those last 10 minutes, I wasn't too comfortable with. We're risking it. We're sitting back too much. We're ceding possession. We're losing control. I thought, well, we need to start fast again at the second half and start the second half. It never happened. It basically second half picked up where the first half left off, and so maybe an earlier change might have benefited us in retrospect. You don't know until they come on. And you're coming on against like tired legs as well, and tired minds as well, who have, you know, we probably scored that goal in the 85th, 86th minute because of the first 20 minutes of the match, because we ran them ragged. Like it was a sight. It's how I remember the Wenger teams, not necessarily that high press, but just Wenger teams, the best Wenger teams would turn up and we'd be 2-0 up inside 20 minutes, game over. And everybody knew that. Everybody in the ground, including the opposition players, knew the game was that you could say you just felt it. It was that kind of oozing confidence, right? Okay, we've got our 2 goals. Do your best, you know. Get the ball off us, break us down, score, get past him, you know, whatever. And we yeah. It was nice to see that we actually went hell for leather to get an early lead. Okay, we did. The next bit didn't work, and that's where I think we talked about last week, where I wanted 2 more transfers, 2 more signings, and that one in central midfield. Now, unless Zinchenko, your new hero, because of his chant, which I have heard, both Martin and Gary Kemp tweeted their approval as big gooners themselves.
Good.
Of the song. So I'm assuming that's the Zinchenko chant that you were alluding to.
Yeah.
In your messages.
That was a lovely surprise when that sort of started doing the rounds early on.
Yeah, and the Mikel Arteta chant was in full voice as well. You could hear that. I'm really curious about this, because I was watching it on the telly, but I was watching it with about 6 or 7 other family members, and that wasn't ideal.
What was that?
The other family members watching it with me, because
right.
I was like, I couldn't fully focus. Mr. Saliba at the back, he got Man of the Match award. How was his performance?
I was reading a review of the weekend earlier, and they're absolutely right. So he's a player who has been managed interestingly, shall we say, for the last 3 years. He's 21.
Ridiculous.
It's his first game in the Premier League, away at Palace.
Tough.
And he just looked like he was to the manner born. He looked strong. He looked composed. And, gosh, yeah, you can't talk highly about him enough. I don't want to talk about him that highly because it's only his first game. But, like you say, he's been doing this at Marseille.
Yeah.
And then before that, at Etienne. This is a player who's not suddenly stepping up. Is actually no. This is what he does.
This is a continuation.
Yeah. So I really do have heart. What's interesting is what does that mean for Ben White?
Yeah.
I know Ben White is versatile, but Ben White is probably not a natural fullback. Fully fit, Tomiyasu plays, right?
Yeah, Ben White has played in midfield for under Bielsa for Leeds.
Well, then,
I don't
you
know how
wonder
often.
about that flexibility. Yeah, Zinchenko and White in midfield. You know, do you the options there, the flexibility? Then do you go 3 centre backs and have wing backs?
Yeah.
Do you play 3 in midfield with adding White and Zinchenko to Partey and Xhaka? Like all of a sudden, the options are pretty incredible. However, the good run we had last season, especially early on, it was a settled defence. It was a settled unit, and we could end up creating more problems by rotating and changing things too much. I don't know, but it is interesting.
Okay, so Tierney came on. Tomiyasu played for the under-21s against Manchester United
Right.
on Saturday or Sunday. I'm assuming Tomiyasu will be on the bench only against Leicester
Yeah,
on
I
Saturday.
can't see him starting against.
No, so Ben White will resume at right back. Okay, Saliba and Gabriel will be the 2 centre backs. Who are you picking at left back?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would absolutely depend on Tierney's fitness overall.
Assuming he's fit now because he played the last 15 minutes of that game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Tierney's a more natural fit and a natural defender and a natural leader.
Is he more defensive? Is he more defensive for a home game against Leicester? Now, I don't want to dismiss Leicester, but we're at home against Leicester. We'll be expected to win that game. Leicester had if he starts 2-0 up, 2-2 against Brentford. Hopefully Tielemans won't be there. Newcastle may get Maddison before the weekend. I don't know,
Yeah, Leicester in a weird position. When I saw them go 2-0 up, I thought, oh, actually, all that noise around the club has been kind of like, needless, really, or maybe over the top. But then they lost the 2-goal lead, and you think, oh, actually, it's an interesting one because of all the times, they've lost Schmeichel, who's just must be a massive loss in terms of around the squad, off the pitch as much as on it. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
for sure.
I've
just noticed there's no flashing light here.
Yeah, you've got some screen flickering going on. Yeah.
I don't know how to stop it because I have no technical capacity at all. So we shall keep with the strobe lighting effect.
Fair enough. So yeah, I mean Tierney starts for me, but at the same time,
so Zinchenko on the bench.
Zinchenko easy home debut, isn't it?
On the bench or in midfield?
I don't know. Do you play him in midfield? But then
if you do, then who do you leave out? Xhaka?
Well, Xhaka would be the natural one because Zinchenko is going to be more forward-thinking, you would think.
And with the left foot.
And with the left foot. Yeah, maybe Xhaka. Maybe that's the way.
And maybe Xhaka is the surprise departure before the end of the transfer window that facilitates Tielemans' arrival.
I don't know if you'd have seen, being away, breaking news that basically Torreira is done now.
Yeah, Galatasaray, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the club put out a farewell and best of luck
okay,
tweet.
no, I haven't seen that. No.
So that's
Pablo Mari's. Yeah.
Made official. Yeah.
Mari's going. Bellerin, apparently, this fullback that City are buying off Betis
is dependent on that, is it?
Allows Bellerin to go to Betis, I think. So I think
that should happen. So
that will happen, and then after that we've got Maitland-Niles. No murmurings. Reece Nelson, Pepe.
Well, like you say, I can see. Yeah, either.
Did you see Charlie Patino went to Blackpool? Came on after 70 minutes, and Blackpool fans have now gone viral with a fantastic chant in the concourse, all for Charlie Patino. And a couple of their fans have been tweeting saying, "We've only seen him for 20 minutes, but already we can see the guy is absolute class."
Good.
That's Championship. So
I didn't realise. I think Danny Cowley's Blackpool manager, isn't he?
No, it's the same manager that managed Lincoln last year. Had Norton. What's his name? Cuffley. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. Is it Appleton?
Appleton, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Michael Appleton.
I think he's the Blackpool manager as well.
All right.
For some Arsenal player has gone to the club managed by Appleton. That's all I do know.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good. Do you know what is the Patino chant? Do you know?
No, I
Or is
no,
that
I'm
just
not
a
even-
general view?
No, I watched the chant. If you go on Twitter, you'll
It is around, is it?
yeah, yes, definitely. Right, so anyway, okay. Where are we? Right. Any other takeaways from the Palace game? Atmosphere was obviously fantastic.
Yeah. Atmosphere was amazing. Yeah. Just the response to Jesus at the beginning was fantastic. He got everyone very excited with that run that we wished had led to a goal, but didn't. And me and the guy I was sat with, John, were sort of talking about how I can't explain it. Even as an English teacher, I can't put into words that when you see a player like that come in, what it is that's different about their play, but that just sets them above everyone else. It's the touch, it's the technique, it's the balance, it's the awareness of what's going on around them. They do just operate on a slightly higher plane. I got that feeling from Jesus. Yeah, he faded slightly in the game.
Well, yeah,
but there's only been a handful of players like that. I remember when Ozil first came in. Even Sanchez didn't. Sanchez was just like a Tasmanian devil. He's more like Martinelli. Yes, he was fantastic. And
Patrick Vieira's debut as substitute.
I mean, yeah, moments like that.
You just thought, wow,
okay, this guy's something different, and I got that vibe from Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. You can totally see Zinchenko's work rate, and he's just like model professional footballer. That's what you get from him. He's relentless in his pressing and chasing the ball down, which is great. But has quality as well. Positions himself well. Delivers a good ball, not afraid to take a shot. It's hard not to be quite optimistic. But Palace were also good. It was a very even game, and I think we probably did deserve to edge it, but not by a huge amount.
No. I think the first 20 minutes would give us that.
We started well, we ended well. We need to work on whatever it is that stops us dropping off. But like you say, Saliba just.
But Palace away is a fantastic win. 2-0 away at Palace, however it comes about, is a fantastic win. And it's got to, we talked about that word momentum, and clean sheet, Saliba debut. We had 3 debutants, and that clean sheet, and that's going to kind of embed that winning mentality further. And I mean, okay, well, 2 of those debutants come with the most supreme winning mentality possible.
They're league winners. Exactly.
Yeah, like multiple league winners. And Saliba obviously came with a lot of personal success, certainly from Marseille. See, our 2 loanees both scored in the French Ligue 1 yesterday.
Tavares is gone.
Yeah. Well, we've seen him try that.
My word.
Cut inside his right foot, ping.
Yeah.
And apparently Balogun, I didn't see the goal, came on and scored a consolation header. Same game, scored a consolation, 4-1.
All bodes well.
But that's good for him, striker, confident, goals breed confidence. When you go.
We were talking about the All or Nothing documentary earlier. There's a very telling sort of section with Tavares where, and again, I talked about the psychology of it. He focuses on the things he does wrong and not the things he does right. And he admits that himself. So that's something for him to overcome. Yeah, and I know when because obviously as teachers we're taught to reflect and review, and that's exactly what I do. Yeah, I totally get where that comes from mentality wise, but I suppose. And I was also listening to before we started chatting the Monday Night Club on Radio 5, and Chris Sutton was talking about how. He worked with Alan Shearer, obviously at Blackburn, but also Henrik Larsson for his time at Celtic. And he said There's something in their brains that's wired differently, because they'll miss a chance and then it's just gone. It's just gone from their minds, and they're just on to the next thing. And he says he admitted that actually, he would have missed chances that would play on his mind. But those players, I mean, Larsson and Shearer, two of the best, from their own periods, they just move on from it. They were talking about it in the context of Haaland. He sees a lot of that in Haaland, that, chances missed, like that one in the Charity Shield that everyone, piped up about. It just won't play on his mind. He just won't care. He'll just get on with the next one. And that's why he just scores buckets and buckets of goals.
And will do so. Well, you've mentioned, let's go on to that. Let's talk about how our rivals got on. So you've mentioned Man City there. Obviously, they're not
rivals.
So, but they did beat a potential rival.
Yes.
In West Ham. Did you watch the game? How were West Ham? Did their striker play?
West Ham, yes. Scamacca, is it? Or
Scamacca?
He came off the bench. Again, looks like he could be quite a good Premier League signing. But would need to see. He came off the bench. Would need to see more of him, and against a slightly different opposition.
Yes, of course. You can't
judge
anybody
a bit more of a sniff.
Yeah.
West Ham look. I keep waiting for them to fade, but they look fairly solid. They're in that transition.
So they're in that kind of bracket below us at the moment. Obviously, looking at last season's league table. So Wolves, Wolves lost, I think, late on, didn't they? Or did they draw? I think they lost.
I think they did lose late on.
Was it Fulham? I think it was Fulham.
Leeds. Fulham beat Liverpool.
Fulham drew Liverpool. Yes. So Liverpool also are not a rival, but it was nice to see them drop 2 points.
But also worrying to see how good Fulham looked, given that we played them in a couple of weeks.
I'm all for teams coming at us. That's fine.
Yeah.
I did it. Football 365 did a great article on whether the long ball game, or maybe the Athletic, can't remember, one of the two, about whether the long ball game is dead.
Yeah.
And you look at, there's no Premier, and they did a statistical analysis of it. I think it was Alan Cox, I think his name. What constitutes a long ball team? And there was certain measurements of goalkeepers passing and central defenders passing in terms of distance. And if they got over a certain distance, a percentage per game, they were classified as a long ball team. There are officially no long ball teams left. Burnley relegation last year took the last one out of the Premier League. So that suits us because we tend to come across against that particular rudimentary style of football, perhaps. So I'm happy for Fulham to get confidence and come at us. Not a problem. I think that's good. That we can then pick them off, hopefully. Scoring 2 goals for us is a good, we're a +2. I wonder how many games did it take us last season to get to a +2 goal difference? I don't know. Because was it even by October? I don't know.
It took us four games just to score a goal.
Yeah, so exactly. And we'd conceded 6-8 goals by then. So,
to do it after 20-30 minutes this season is delightful.
Yeah, so West Ham, Wolves, Villa lost, Everton lost.
Some very strange things happening at Villa. He's taken the captaincy off Mings and said it wasn't an issue, but then Mings is on the bench as an unused sub, and Gerrard said something along the lines of
when he's prepared, when he shows, well, it was weird.
Okay.
Yeah, Gerrard, you can do that if your team's winning.
Yeah.
But he's on a bit of a slump at the moment.
They lost to Bournemouth as well. Like Bournemouth looked like a good team. Yeah, Parker looks like a very competent coach, and they've got some okay players, but they're a newly promoted side. And Villa spent money.
We're going there next, as in that's our next away game, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And not their first home game. Not their first home game, thankfully. All right. So the main rivals for me are the three Spurs, Chelsea, and United. So let's start with the the most disappointing of those, and that was the Spurs win. But I'll kind of contextualize that by saying home game against Southampton is probably going to be one of the easiest games of the season.
Yeah.
Two things though, they did go 1-0 down. They didn't start any of their new signings.
No.
Kulusevski apparently was unplayable,
and he looks really good. He looked really good against us,
and he's young.
Yeah.
So
he looks like an annoyingly good signing.
And so they scored 4 goals. Kane and Son had nothing to do with any of them. So that's a worry, number one.
Yeah.
Or does it make for a more disgruntled squad unit? Basuma, Richarlison was suspended, so he wasn't available anyway.
Yeah.
Perisic, I think, was injured, so he wasn't available anyway. So I'm just curious about because Conte's I still get the impression there's a bit of a tinderbox aspect to Conte, and he could all go up in smoke quite quickly. I mean, or is that me clutching at straws and really
probably clutching at straws a little bit? Yeah, I wanted to hold fire and talk about how, I don't think they'd spent their money that well, and this, that, and the other. And like you say, Conte is a bit of a firebrand of a manager, but at the same time, he does that siege mentality quite well. He does like to par down his squad a little bit and make it a little bit leaner. So,
I think they go to Chelsea next, don't they?
But they've got Chelsea next, which will be a big test. I saw bits of the Chelsea-Everton game. Chelsea looked fine, but yeah, for the way they've been over the last, getting on for 18 years, 2004, Mourinho came in. They,
Well, I think Chelsea are potentially the weak link, and that Spurs may not be the concern. We need not bother ourselves too much with Spurs because Chelsea will actually do us the real favour. And I tell you what, simply because they've spent £60+ million on a left back 2 seasons after spending £50 million on a left back who's actually a really good left back, Ben Chilwell. And so I'm not sure why they've done that. This Koulibaly, brilliant central defender, played really well, but his injury record is renowned, and he went off injured.
Well, yeah.
So I'm like, it'll be interesting to see how they fare against Spurs. I mean, I just noticed it's 4:30 on Sunday, so it's going to be the televised game. So I will be watching that with my popcorn. I'll be thinking, hopefully with 6 points in the bag from the day before. So yeah, it's interesting. Chelsea are giving me a little bit of hope. Everton were poor. Chelsea apparently were time wasting throughout the second half with a 1-goal lead. I didn't see any of the game myself. I'm just reading various comments from more reliable sources.
Everton, I can see them being in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, but they're picking up 2 more players this week that are very defensive players. They're going to be very difficult to beat or to break down.
But that means nothing. They essentially set up against Chelsea to counter-attack. And to be honest, with Gordon and Gray as your outlets, that worked fantastic. But no one's going to finish it off.
Yeah, Calvert-Lewin's out for 6 or 7 weeks as well.
Calvert-Lewin's out for 6 weeks. The player that they're waiting to come back in is Rondon. And Rondon's fine, but his
goal-scoring record's not fantastic.
No, and he serves a purpose, as he did at West Brom. And
he's a bring on for the last 15 minutes when you desperately need a goal.
Hold the ball up. Yeah. Just hold the ball up. We talked about our stickability. Well, the ball sticks to him. You can't deny that. And Gordon and Gray are fantastic outlets, but there's got to be more to their game.
And they've lost one of their best defenders. Godfrey's out for a couple of months now, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, that was when I started watching the game. Actually, I flicked it on and he was down and looking in all sorts of pain. Yeah.
So Chelsea Spurs are interesting. But come on, we can finish off by talking about Manchester United.
I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. and it's so
Um,
funny.
There are
'Cause
loads
we've
of
been
very
there.
funny
Well,
memes.
we've totally been there.
But there's loads
where-
of funny memes where you've got like Ten Hag's face at the start and Phil Mitchell's face, that famous Phil Mitchell, and when he's the alcoholic
Yeah,
character in EastEnders, and that's before the game starts. By the time the game ends, it's like,
Yeah.
but I looked at the team selection, no striker, and I'm like, ooh. So I didn't watch the game. I was just deliberately dipping in every 20 minutes or so. So when I got to 20 minutes and it was 0-0, I started to get really quite. But then I heard the usual. McTominay should have seen a red card for his tackle, and I've seen the tackle. I mean, it's a red card all day long. It studs up. It's on the shin. Could break his leg. Like, I don't understand how that's not a red card. Did you watch the United game?
I hate to sound all, or biased or anything, but there are certain players, one of our own, Granit Xhaka.
Oh, if Granit Xhaka had done that.
If he makes that tackle, you can't help but think that.
Yeah, he's off.
With our record.
I mean, in the Palace game, in our game, there was I don't know how much you got of this at the game, but there were two almost identical, what do you call it, indiscretions within 20 seconds. Palace player.
Were these the dives?
Yes, Palace player dived, no contact, dived, nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Literally 20 seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
Same part of the pitch in an offensive capacity. Xhaka exaggerates contact. There is no contact. He goes down. I think rightly booked. Not a problem with Xhaka's yellow card. He's an idiot.
But the Palace player should have got
But
it.
what the hell was?
Because he's trying to con the ref.
Yeah, it's a yellow card. Like, fine, don't book either of them, or book both of them. There's no, and it's because it was Xhaka. There's no question. Referee saw it was Xhaka. Simple as that. Referees are biased. Now, people are talking about, there's a different PGMOL league. There isn't. Mike Riley's still there this year. He retires at the end of the year, so it still is show, shall we say.
Yeah.
But
and it must be said, how good did Brighton look?
They've sold Ben White 50 million, that Cucurella bloke for 60 plus million, and Isuma for 25 million. They haven't bought anyone. Danny Welbeck played up front. They still haven't got a striker.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, to say a team is greater than the sum of its parts, I don't think there's been a team that have epitomised that more, that I can't think of, where they are greater than the sum of their parts. You know,
I mean,
they've got good players, but the coach, what Potter's doing there,
his next job is one of the big ones, isn't it?
You'd think so, yeah. And there's even, I've heard a few people sort of mention, and when I say people, just fans in general, this is probably Southgate's last tournament, because
the tide has turned. But the tide has turned against him as well. There's a lot of negativity, and I think it's just as well. I think he's very negative and he's very defensive in his tactics.
And
he's had very favourable draws in the two finals that he's played at. I mean, really, really easy draws.
He's still arguably England's most successful manager ever, apart from Alf Ramsey who won it. But at the same time, I'm a big fan of Southgate because a bit like with Arteta, with us, and a bit like what United need, half of it is about culture change. Half of it is not necessarily about what's going on the pitch. It's about what goes on off it. That's almost as important. It's about playing down all the media circus. It's about making sure that there aren't any inter-club rivalries. It's about making sure that everyone comes together and is on the same page and is happy and content and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you can only go so far, and I think Southgate probably will have this World Cup, and then that will be time for a change. And I think England could do a lot worse than Graham Potter.
If you're Graham Potter, do you go from club football
this is the
to
thing,
international football? I think you want.
He's still a very young manager. He will probably want to do it. But then look at what has Southgate done?
Yeah.
European run with Borough.
Yeah, that
And
was
they
it.
said they reckon at the time he didn't have the necessary qualifications to do so. That he had to take on a title that wasn't quite, manager, so that he could do that. So, there isn't perhaps, what ignorance is bliss, really. Maybe Potter does need to go in and, use the limited experience he has to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him going like. I mean, Spurs would be the worry.
Mm.
You know, I could see him going to Spurs.
Because Conte is a short-term manager.
Definitely, no question.
He's
Yeah.
3-4 years max.
No, if
maybe.
they don't win anything this season, he's off.
Well, probably, yeah.
Um,
Unless they promise him a war chest or something.
yeah, which he got this year so far. I mean, he spent quite a lot of money. Spurs have. But
Yeah, without being outlandish. I mean, Richarlison seems
60
million
million. That's a bit steep. Yeah.
is rich for Richarlison, but
Jed Spence is a kind of a safe bet, really. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of money. If it goes wrong, so what?
and
you'll
Bissouma,
decide
I
on
think,
that.
for what
I
they've
think
paid,
that's- I think it's a good deal for him, 25 million. But yeah, we'll see. Right, United was just fun. I loved it.
Yeah, it was
I was convinced they'd get back into it and win it, but that's because I'm conditioned by Ferguson's United teams. But for them to lose 2-1 and to hear Gary Neville spit feathers
at home, opening day.
to the team that beat them 4-0 at the end of towards the end of last
Yeah.
season,
Great.
yeah, they've not improved at all. Brilliant. I don't know who they've got now. Hang on, I'm looking at it here. They're away to Brentford next. So Brentford's first home game. So again, Brighton
Not
home,
easy.
Brentford. Yeah, but Brighton home, Brentford away. You want to get 6 points from that?
You want to,
Yeah. So
but you might not.
the max they're getting is 3.
Am I remembering rightly that we didn't get any points from Brentford away and Brighton at home last season?
Brighton at home was it not a draw? Brighton
It was a
away. I'm not sure. We definitely lost at Brentford away 2-0.
We drew at Brighton. It was 0-0.
Well, then they probably beat us at home then, because I didn't think we had a. I don't remember. Right. Okay. That's it. Yeah. So first weekend of the season. Look, brilliant. Away win, clean sheet, difficult ground, tick. Brilliant. We started. We did our bit. Spurs won. I fully expect everybody expecting to beat Southampton at home. Man United lost at home to Brighton. Brilliant, fantastic. That's a bonus. 3 points drops for them. Chelsea, very like penalty FC. I heard someone call them. 1-0 away at Everton, who are a really turgid outfit at the moment. So nothing inspiring there. However, it's 3 points. They've got just as many points as we have, and played crap. So it's
still very much early days.
Yeah, exactly. Jury's still out, and again, transfer window another 3 weeks. So who knows what can happen by then? But so I'd give it an 8 out of 10 weekends when you factor in the other results.
The fact that I went, it'd probably be a 9 for me, because it was.
Well, it's a 10 out of 10 weekend for Arsenal, just the Arsenal game, isn't it? It's like you were particularly apprehensive, I think, or reluctant to allow yourself to embrace the possibility that we would definitely go there and win. Whereas I said we'd win 4-1.
You did.
With no confidence whatsoever, I said that. And I did not bet on us winning 4-1 at all. In fact, I had a little side bet for a Palace win, just to make me feel better if they did actually win. Happily,
That is very fever pitch.
Yes, I happily paid £10 to see us win every week. Sorry, I'll sacrifice that. Right, okay, brilliant. Well, I shall see you on Saturday afternoon, where I will be really uncomfortable in 34-degree heat.
So
I'm hoping
the kickoff. I'm guessing the sun will be.
No, will be in the shade because it's higher in the sky. I've been thinking about this. Indigo asked me, this first question he asked me, will the sun be out? Will the sun be on the seats?
I think the sun will be on us for an hour,
No.
isn't it?
Well, no.
'Cause it's early August.
I'm not going then.
So yeah, I think the
Second
sun will
half,
be-
it definitely won't be.
right.
But I think because it's higher in the sky, that it'll be, the shade will be further to the front.
I'm preparing for sun. It might be, bucket hat,
Yeah.
shades.
No, I'll have.
I might wear a collared home shirt of some kind, just to protect my neck. I'm a bit burnt. I've taken to wearing basketball shirts because it's just so hot and sticky, and I don't care really what I look like.
You've got a farmer's tan.
I've got a proper farmer's tan, so yeah, I'm a bit red from yesterday. It's probably why I feel a bit dicky today, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Okay. We'll leave it there. Just in under the hour. Yeah. Look forward to catching up on Saturday. Have a good week.
You too, mate. Safe travels home.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye.